Okay, awesome. Thank you all so much for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started. We are officially live on Facebook and going out on all other channels as well. So super, super excited about this event. For anyone who does not know me, my name is Ruthie Senanayaka. I am the events manager at Blueprint Technologies. Thank you so much for joining our Conduit 2.0 launch party. So whether you've been using Conduit for quite some time or you're new to the tool, the information provided today will help you get a better understanding of the value of data virtualization and data architecture as well. So in addition, we'll explain new features that have been added to Conduit 2.0 and also explain why it's important and super exciting for organizations today. We will be recording this session, so I know there's a ton of information that's going to be talked about, so don't worry if you miss something. We will make sure that you get a copy of the recording soon after this event that you can share with all of your colleagues and friends as well. So before we get started, I just want to give you a quick run through of what you can expect out of this event. So first up, we're going to kick it off with a Conduit game. Yeah, we want to make sure that everyone is awake. No matter where you are in the world listening, we want to make sure you are having fun and enjoying this time as well. So let's make sure that everyone can hear us. So I made sure that mic checks and everything is good. And next, right after that, we're going to have Bobby, our director of marketing, product marketing, Eric, our director of solutions development, and Claudio, our director of engineering, take us through the new features of Conduit 2.0. If you have any questions at all, just add them to the Q&A section. All you have to do is just hover over the screen, click on the Q&A, and then add in your question, and we will make sure to answer that at the end of the session. And don't forget to listen really carefully because there will be a pop quiz. Hello, that's so much fun, isn't it? But it'll be fun because you get the chance to win more cool swag. So right now we're gonna hop into our first quick quiz. And let me share my screen. Okay, and everyone can see this? So the first thing that we wanna go over is, let's get punny. So send us one sentence that includes a pun about Conduit. Get creative, have fun. Here's an example of what you can use. What we've done. You can't use this. You Conduit is just a fun, silly one, but add yours to the comments and in the chat. And at the end, I will announce the winner. So go ahead and do that. And now without further ado, I will pass this along to Bobby.
All right, let's get started with Conduit. I'm going to go straight to a slide that kind of overlays what Conduit is, and we'll talk a little bit about the history of Conduit for those that probably use a refresher on data virtualization, as well as why do we build this tool and what it does. So at a high level, we began our products journey into the data virtualization space at Blueprint when we evaluated a lot of our consultancy engagements, and we realized that there's a huge need in the marketplace for large enterprises to make it easy for users to get access to data, and not only to be able to access it, but also get it in real time, and also understand what those data assets are. So as we evaluated the marketplace, we realized that the tools that exist, there are tools that solve small pieces of this. There's data aggregation. Large enterprises out there with branded services that do great data warehousing, data aggregations. There's data catalog tools out there, but how do we create a solution that bundles all these things together and makes it really simple, straightforward, and easy to get access to your data? And so we got all our heads together and we built this tool, Conduit. And in a matter of a couple of years, it's gone from an initial set of connectors and a Spark query engine to something way more robust today. So I will talk about everything that is Conduit and what is packed into 2.0. So let's go over this slide real quick, just as a refresher. So the way that Conduit works on the left, you'll see there's a variety of different types of data sources that Conduit has these unique connectors, and we connect to them. So everything from storage to data warehouses to relational databases, so on and so forth. Within Conduit itself, there is Active Directory, single sign-on integration, which passes through permissions and existing group level access to various data sets. There's the ability to and audit, and then one of the most asked for features, and a feature that we're most proud about, is this whole set of detailed caching capabilities, whether it's caching results, table level caching. It's the ability to optimize queries based off the performance of the data set as well as the needs of the business. Lastly, at the heart of the compute engine is this optimized Spark query engine. We've done a variety of different enhancements as part of 2.0, which make it super fast. And then because of these various functionalities, you're able to create this virtual data model. Conduit brings these data sets into the machine that it's installed on, and then allows users to create virtual models. Lastly, as part of 2.0, we created a data catalog and a SQL Query Editor within our management console, which turns this typical data virtualization tool into what we call a command center for all enterprise data assets. So it allows admins to see what data assets exist and to be able to provide those data assets to users in an easy to understand way. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And then on the output side of Conduit is a set of endpoints. There's different ways to take these data sets and expose them for usage and consumption. So folks, no matter if you're using Power BI, Tableau, some type of analytics tool, or whether you're a developer for various services, there's JDBC, REST API, and OData endpoints for data consumption. So in a nutshell, that is how Conduit works. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the features that we're launching in 2.0, which are the highlighted items. So as part of 2.0, we launched a Hadoop HDFS connector. We launched an Oracle connector, and then when we talk about connectors, there's plenty of companies out there that make a business of just building connectors. But inside of this ecosystem, this Conduit ecosystem, the connectors are so much more than just being able to connect to a data source. These connectors look at these data sets and say, hey, if you want to cache, how do we do that? If we want a predicate push down a query down to the source, how can that be best optimized? And then as part of the performance, we even within the connector build process allow you to column prune, partition within our Parquet store, which makes the performance of using this engine that much better. So much more than just a connector, and that's why they take some time to build. But we did integrate Hadoop and Oracle into this release. Next is this central data asset command center that we talk about. So as part of Conduit 2.0, the two major pieces are the SQL Query Editor and the data catalog. And the intention of the data catalog is to make it easy for users to search for data. And also, once you've searched and found what you're looking for, you have the ability to keyword, tag, annotate, and also just provide freehand descriptions all the way down to the field level for what a data set is. So if you're browsing into the data catalog, trying to find, I don't know, sales data, customer service, customer data, you can type in sales, you can type in retail, And the data catalog will show you the various data assets all the way down to a field level for the data sets that you have access to. So it's a really powerful, organized way of making it easy for people to find what they're looking for. And lastly, we, as part of 2.0, we created a managed REST API to be able to consume the data. So it really helps our clients that that run .NET and C# services. So we will move on to the next screen. And so I had some folks ask me a while back, how do you connect to these data sources? And you say your connector is very complex. What does it actually do? And so we wanted to give folks just an overview of this thing we call anatomy of a connector, right? So as you build a connector, as you connect to a data source, what is it that you do beyond just connecting to it? So the first step is, as an admin, you authenticate through, you put in the credentials to be able to connect to the data source. And then once it connects to the data source, you'll be able to see the tables that exist, and you can choose to select which tables you want to expose as part of this connector and which ones you don't. Next, you decide whether or not you want specific caching policies as part of performance and query optimization. And if you do, there will be more advanced features to be able to optimize what you want to cache, what you don't want to cache. And then next, there's an authorization page, and you can select which groups have visibility to this connector and which ones shouldn't. Within the caching and optimization section at the end, you can do things like in a connector build process, you can choose to cache a dimension table and choose to not cache a transactional table, which would make a query a lot more optimized in terms of how long it takes to scan the data that it would need to return its results, because transactional tables update frequently and typically dimension tables don't. So all of this is geared at being able to make queries faster and take advantage of the compute engine that exists in the management console. So once that's all done, you have a variety of endpoints that you can provide to users, and all they do is they go into their tool, get data, put in the endpoint, and that data set just shows up all in one unified source. So the advantage not only is that they get to get access to their data quickly, but all these various different sources that you connect to, they all show up in these tools as one unified tool. So you can do what we call a hybrid join or a multi-cloud hybrid join. So you can take, a data set that's a CSV file in S3 and be able to join it against a SQL table. So all in one tool. So that's really cool. So here we'll talk a little bit more about one of the features in 2.0 called the data catalog. And then I'll highlight some cool things and explain how it works. So on the left, in this data catalog, there's a variety of different sample data sets. We just did a search result for age. I said, there's a variety of different tables in here. Some of the data in the sample set have, sample people's ages. Let's put an age and see what comes up. So this is an example of a result once you search for this keyword tag. On the left, you see all of the connectors that have the word age associated with it. And then on the right, it shows you can go into these results in more detail. So in total, there are 28 data assets, and it breaks up these data assets by the various types. So tables, fields, so on and so forth. And then this is an example of where if you find something that you want and you want to tag it for easy searching down the road, if you want to add a different word to it, you can click on this little plus icon and give it a keyword tag. And then also, depending on what you're looking for, if you know that there's age in a field that you're looking for, you can filter down by table or field. And then lastly, the string in the result shows you where this data set came from, whether this was a sales table, a supply chain inventory table, so on and so forth. You get to go and trace back. Okay, this data belongs to a specific line of business. So in a nutshell, that is how the data catalog works. It's super intuitive, very easy to use. And then lastly, you get to also freehand describe all the way down to the field level as well. So if this particular field for age has some more details in terms of everything from characters to time inference to more details, you can just freehand type, this age is the age of XYZ. And it would provide folks that pulled this up in the future more details. Next, this is a Sql Query Editor within the Management Console. So not too much to explain for folks that understand just executing a select statement. Once a connector is created, before that endpoint is provided to users, you can go in here and just do a simple query and take a look at what are the results in this table. You can do that within the Management Console. And if you want to make some changes to the connector because of what you see in the results, you'll go back in the connector build process, hit edit, and remove a table, rename a field, re-optimize your cache based on what the results are. So it's just a simple way for folks that know SQL to be able to go in advance of providing a connector to users to be able to optimize it in a way that gets the most performance out of the end result. And lastly, a couple other things that's always been part of Conduit that we talk about. Conduit has a variety of different performance monitoring tools built in. One is Kibana, the other is Grafana, and you can go back and do your do auditing and look at the logs so admins can see who has queried or looked at what connector, what table. It makes it very easy for auditability and being able to monitor and trace back various data querying activity. So, and then from a just overall query engine performance monitoring perspective, we integrate with Grafana, and you can see, when certain databases or when the certain engine is being hit a lot, and there's a lot of concurrency. So we can make a decision based off of, may we need to scale up or scale out this instance? Are there specific concurrency things that we should need to optimize for, either in the connector builds or how we set up our data sets inside of Conduit? And that's it. So to wrap up and summarize what Conduit is, you can connect very easily from a variety of different data sources. The new features in 2.0 allow you to explore your data quickly and securely, so decisions can be made at the pace of business. So if you're interested in learning more, if you want a deeper dive into how the technology works, you want us to explain some more use cases, feel free to reach out to me directly. We're happy to provide a deeper walkthrough of the connectors and how the data catalog works, provide testimonials. So just feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And also, if you're ready to try it out and you want to just give it a go, you can also download Conduit directly from the Azure Marketplace.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Bobby, for going into all of that detail. We did have a question come in, and I saw that, Eric, you answered it. Do you mind reading that question aloud and just going over it for everyone who's on the call?
Sure. Yeah. By the way, thanks everyone for joining. Wonderful to be with you virtually today to talk about Conduit. The question was, can you explain if there are any optimizations to query performance that the Conduit performs? And then there's a second part, which we'll get to. So the first part, yes. So Conduit optimizes queries in a variety of ways. One way is it has a query cache. So queries that come in, the result set's returned, it's cached so that the next incremental query that comes in with the same shape comes right off the query cache. Similar to results caching that lots of cloud data warehouses perform. And then it has a time bomb, if you will, so that query cache knows to age out appropriately. The other thing that it can do, as Bobby mentioned, when you have data sets that can be pre-cached entirely for rapid optimization, and very fast queries in general, Conduit can do that to the entire data set. as well as virtualizing data sets that you perhaps don't want to cache because they're changing too frequently. And then the second was around combining data from multiple sources. Yeah, so Conduit outputs data to many endpoints, and lots of SQL tools and editing tools can concatenate endpoints together to produce a new data set in whatever tool you're using. And then the SQL experience within Conduit can do the same.
Thanks for answering that, Eric. And is there any other questions that anyone has? If you do have one, please do add it to the Q&A section. All you have to do is hover over the main screen and click on the Q&A button and type your question. Oh, we had another one come in. Bobby or Claudio, do you guys want to take that?
So the question is, how does a company benefit from a data virtualization tool if they've already committed to a cloud warehouse solution? Great question. So we view data virtualization and these larger branded data warehousing, data aggregation solutions as complementary to each other. And the reason why we believe they're complementary is that data virtualization, because it connects to data at its source, gives you the flexibility to quickly connect to, explore, and utilize data sets in a much more cost-effective and faster way. Right? So, and you don't have to lift it, make a copy of it, do a bunch of transformations against it, structure it in the right way, monitor a job to move something from one place to another place perpetually over time. And not saying that there isn't a world where that's needed. There's definitely is. But virtualization is a complement to that, because as time goes on, as a company acquires new data assets, as various migrations need to happen from one tool, one system to another, virtualization allows you to point to those tools, those systems, and data sources very quickly, do exploration. If something ever goes down, you always have virtualization as an option. So we don't view them as a replacement for the other. We view them as in an ecosystem for a large enterprise. These things would go hand in hand.
Awesome, great answer, Bobby. Another question came in. Why would I choose Conduit over larger competitors like Denodo? Does anyone want to take that?
Yeah, I can take that. Good question. So Conduit was created when our market research team evaluated the landscape. We talked to a lot of customers of a variety of different data virtualization companies, and we aggregated their answers and said, how can we build something that meets the needs of today's business? And so without saying too many details about the services, the performance, and the cost of what Denodo offers, I can tell you that Conduit was built in a way that was to modernize this data virtualization space to fit the needs of enterprises today. Denodo has been around since 1999. This data virtualization technology that they leverage has been around for a long time, and there is an opportunity to fill a variety of different performance and transparency gaps that we thought would be very useful to large enterprises. Everything from transparent cost and pricing that's affordable, easy to understand, and fair, to being able to connect to data sources like S3, blob storage, HDFS, and query against them in a super performant way. So we built a variety of capabilities that other competitor customers said, this is where we need additional performance, and that's, I'll just leave it at that.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, I'm just checking in to see if there's any more questions that come through. Oh, we had one come through that was already answered on the chat, but if someone wants to take it live, could Conduit manage or optimize analytics functions?
Yeah, I'll provide a little bit of context to that. So, you know, folks, if you're anything like I was, I spent 18 years in industry. The last 6 or 7 years, greenfielding a big analytics and reporting and BI team. I would have killed someone, metaphorically speaking, for a product like Conduit. I had data everywhere, and I had users that didn't want to hear, and I was a BI manager, right? So the context of me being a BI manager, I was as empathetic as I could to the needs of end users. This was their data. It's their right to explore it. It's their right to analytic over it. It's their right to explore it in tools and modalities that are comfortable to them. The last thing they wanted to hear from me as a BI leader was, I need a project plan. I need capital. I need you to request access for me to do work to prep your data into a data warehouse, and then hear a litany of reasons why it's not fast or cost optimized, or why you need 13 different accounts to log in. That was the worst thing I wanted to do to my clients, my internal users. So a tool like Conduit just gets a lot of that stuff out of the way. It focuses on getting insights and data to end users as fast as possible, be it data coming from OLTP sources or data lake sources or HDFS sources. Anyway, so that's kind of a preamble. Now to the question specifically, can Conduit manage and optimize analytics functions? Yeah, generally speaking, analytics functions are kind of the catch-all term for BI workloads. So slice, dice, aggregations, a lot of filters and sharding and sums, averages, mins, maxes, etc. Fortunately, Conduit preps your data in the Spark engine in the Parquet format. Both of those things combined are a magic enabler for analytic workloads. So your popular BI tools, Power BI, Tableau, etc., that want to initiate analytic queries, which are typically massive sums, averages, mins and maxes, and then group bys is effectively what BI tools do. And Conduit is a brilliant engine for that workload.
Awesome. Thanks for taking that, Eric. We did have another question come through that says, given the free-form nature of the tool and the random human inquiry in trying to digest data sets, does the tool have a log of actions paths, allowing the user to go recover the path's actions when all of a sudden it clicks and you realize there's a new association that is important?
So Claude and I can both take this. I think, Alan, one of the things you're teeing on here is a really important habit of data analysts, and that's to perform some analytics on the queries that your users are making, right? Nothing tells you more about the nature of how your consumers are consuming data than a log, because the logs tell you what their queries look like. They tell you that they're looking for needles in a stack of needles with complex where clauses, or they tell you that they're performing sums and mins and maxes and standard deviations and other math aggregations, or they tell you that they're biasing towards one data set over another data set, or maybe, heaven forbid, a certain data set has become not useful, it's orphaned, and maybe it's not adding value anymore. Conduit believes in the fundamental cloud principle of log everything. So Conduit collects and emits query logs that you can almost use as your own human explain plan for what your users are doing in your environment. So if you have a culture at your company of every week or every month, pulling that data out and summarizing the data sets and queries and the types of queries that your users are using, Conduit gives you that through a UI pane or some other export tool. It also makes intelligent decisions with respect to query caching based on some of that information as well.
Great. Thank you so much for answering all those questions, guys. Eric, would you like to close us out and just kind of give us an idea of what do people need to do right now in order to make sure that their companies or organizations are successful in the long term, in 3 to 5 years from now? What do they need to do with their data? The
shortest, simplest, most succinct answers I can give you is get data into the hands of the brilliant analysts and end users that you have in your company. And as much as possible, don't overprocess or don't encumber that data access pipeline with a lot of ETL workloads that Bobby talked about, if there isn't a good and valuable reason for rearranging data in a data warehouse. So that is my number one compelling call out to the, I don't know, almost 100 people are on this call. Get data to end users quickly. You would be amazed at how simple cranking up a Conduit instance, connecting from materialized views or views in SQL and Oracle and the other OLTP sources that it supports virtualizing, as well as all the data, third-party data and reference data and historical data that you've collected on S3 or from ADLS, the cloud storage environments. And if you adopt a mindset of saying, you know what, we've got lots of data, we're going to create data sets, they're going to be called connectors, they're inputs out of Conduit. We're going to get them into the hands of analysts and data science pros and data engineering pros that exist within the business domains of your company, be it operations or manufacturing or logistics or supply chain or anything else for that matter. And you'd be amazed at the insights that they can mine from just simply having a single platform with a single user authentication mechanism that exposes data from your enterprise in a responsible fashion. And again, through tools like the Query Explorer and others, you will find that you will be amazed at the insights and the capabilities that your analysts have, just from the simple ethic of saying, I'm going to get their data to them quickly with a tool like Conduit. That's probably my biggest call to action. I mean, we could talk more about the technical how-dos and the patterns, and I would certainly like to have follow-up conversations with folks. But if I could leave anybody with that fundamental principle, it would be that.
Great, thank you, Eric. Claudio, is there anything you'd like to add before we conclude?
So yeah, Eric covered that. We have we serve multiple personas from power users to analysts to data scientists, developers. We have a story for all of them. And if you want to access data fast and do exploratory data analysis, but even beyond EDA, just code applications, data science notebooks, use BI tools to connect quickly to your data with managed security and performance. Use Conduit. Gives you fast access to that data without ETL. ETL has its place, but it's not always necessary. If you're having access, all you want is raw access to the data. You don't have to set up an IT project and do ETL to move the data from a source to another destination, because you just have access to that. Move into a data warehouse or a Snowflake or whatnot. Use a DB tool to connect. And I mentioned in one of the previous questions, somebody asked if we can manage, we can add some sort of transform. We have that in the roadmap. The ability to add simple transforms into Conduit, because all the data flows through Conduit, all the queries go. So we see Conduit sees all the data from the source to the consumer. And we're thinking about having the accessibility model, a plugin mechanism for Python and Java functions, pretty much UDFs. They can apply simple transforms, even if it includes changing the output schema. So that's something we heard about and we're thinking about doing in the future. And lastly, the last questions I'm seeing, are you planning to expose data to different applications, interact with enterprise service buses, not only BI? So we kept talking about Conduit enabling consumer to service, consumer to data, interactivity, but we also enable service-to-service connectivity. And yes, we were asked to handle data that's being stored in a Kafka, for example, or build a Kafka connector, or build a CDC connector where we extract capture data, CDC to capture data. So change what's called CDC. Change
data capture.
Change data capture. Okay, thank you. So CDC out of those transactional systems into a service bus and then query that, right? So that's very possible with Conduit because we abstract the data source, right? We abstract the data source and we give you a familiar language, SQL in the future, even ANSYS SQL to query it, and that allows all these BI tools and all the other consumers, all the services to use other services, right? As long as they speak today's Spark SQL, right? As long as they speak Spark SQL, we can enable service connectivity. So hopefully that answers the question.
I'll also tag on this. Yeah. Hey, Claudio, I'll tag on a little bit with that answer regarding the ESB and enterprise service bus, or at least enterprise service bus patterns. So I came from an environment where we leveraged like a RabbitMQ or just some ESB for what we called skinny message transformations, as opposed to putting the entire data payload inside the message. The message was essentially just, hey, go look up the contract endpoint. There is new data available. So just as a quick note, if your organization uses skinny messages and just kind of notifications, if you will, in your bus, you can certainly today use Conduit as that contract endpoint that represents the data set that needs to be queried. If there's a new record, because there's a new message that says there's a new record, you emit the OData or REST query to Conduit, and you effectively have a participant in your enterprise service bus. That makes sense. Again, if you'd like to talk more offline on how that's done, be happy to.
Great. Thank you guys so much for all of that informative talk. And we want to make sure that if you have any further questions, that we make sure to answer them. So feel free to email us at conduit@bpcs.com or go to bpcs.com/conduit and schedule your demo. We want to make sure that you feel comfortable with our product and start a free trial if that's something that you want to move forward with. But just know that, even if it's something that you're thinking, maybe, yes, I want to try this, maybe I don't, there's nothing you have to lose. So contact us and we will get you started with that free trial. Now over to some of the fun stuff. We got some awesome puns that came in. So we did pick a winner, but I want to give a shout out to a couple of the top ones that I did see come through. So we got, let's see, I Conduit, you Conduit. Let's see, Conduit, Conduit makes your data greater. That one's fun. And then let's see, a connector that conduit all, love it. And then for the winning one, you either conduit or cannot do it. There's no try do it. So if that is your answer, I think the person's name is Alan who submitted it. Please email me. My email is Ruthie, RUTHIE @bpcs.com, and we will make sure to send you that awesome swag box for winning our pun contest. One more contest that we have that I wanted to do this. So how you submit your answer is the same way. Just submit your answer in the chat. Now, the trick to this is being quick because it's the first person who gives the correct answer. So the question is, what is the primary benefit of having a data catalog? One more time, what is the primary benefit of having a data catalog? So go ahead, put your answers in, and the first correct answer to come through, I'll make sure to get connected with you and we will send you that swag box. But once again, I want to remind you, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to email us at conduit@bpcs.com or go to bpcs.com/conduit to schedule your demo. But we want to just say thank you again to our awesome presenters and for everyone for joining in and taking this time out of your busy schedules to listen to us talk about Conduit. If you have any questions, you can stay on the chat and send it to me. But we look forward to talking to you guys all soon. Thank you so much and have an awesome rest of your week.
Thank you, guys.
Take care all.